planet Earth, both foreign and domestic. Welcome to the Durahuman Paradox. I'm your host, Darius Riddick, and I would like to thank you all for joining me in what is nominally the next stage of evolution for humankind. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there with this episode. My apologies. I think I had a little bit too many unintentional puppy kisses, and I may have come down with something or may have seasonal allergies. But besides the point, we are here doing what is considered our duty. And that is creating a foundation to not only understand where we are, where we've been, and where we're going, but to create a better quality of life for those that succeed us. And the Durahuman Paradox does that both intentionally and unintentionally by beginning to explain some of the things that have been long-standing questions, and that just recently technology and its evolution has allowed us to begin to understand. But before we get started, as always, on this day in history, courtesy of history.com, 1944, August 25th, Paris is liberated after 4 years of Nazi occupation. What does that have to do with human performance? I don't know. But at the same time, what we just spoke on, in order to know or have any idea of where we are, in order to understand where we're going, we have to have known where we've been to be able to translate something in between. And so for those of you that are joining for the first time, or for those of you that are even returning, maybe this is your second or third time, today is going to be on one of the many sides that we try to attack as far as what is measurable and what is immeasurable. So one of the things that we do is we discuss human performance research and its entirety. And what we try to do is to link a portion of the human body or human cognition or some piece of research that has already been uncovered. It's not to put out anything new or discover any new or have something be mind-blowing. It's to simply have a better interpretation of it, because think of human performance like a sea, like a vast sea of information. It's very easy to get lost if you don't have sea legs, if you don't have the ability to navigate in that environment. Then it's very easy to get lost. So our intent here is to put many of those who may not have access to information or are looking to live a better quality of life or to have a greater understanding, just to put you, just to course correct, to put you on a good course. And this is not to give any recommendation, and it's not to give any way that you should structure or live your life. It's just to present some information in a way for you to better understand it, and then to make the most responsible decision of what to do for your life specifically. So today, when we focus on something a little bit more immeasurable, what does that mean exactly? So in human performance research, for something to be measurable, that means that we can ask a question. We can present a hypothesis, whether that be just in a basic question form, or if it is an if-then statement. But that question is meant to provoke information that we may not already have, or to add on to information that we do already have. And maybe that be to expand a body of literature, or maybe it's to answer a question that we couldn't in the past because technology just wasn't there, which happens quite frequently, more than we like to admit. So measurability, typically done on data, statistics, numbers, things that we can readily prove and say, okay, because this event happened, these are the numbers we have. We look at this population, these are the numbers that we can retrieve. We tested this many people, and based on the brackets of A, B, C, X, Y, Z, these are the numbers we were able to co-locate. And measurability, sometimes 90% of the time is easy. It's just simply finding out exactly what the data means. Now, the difficult part to admit, especially for a lot of human performance research professionals, is the immeasurable, the traits of the human machine that we haven't quite understood completely, but that we do know exist, and that we have seen put into in vitro and in vivo settings. So in lab settings and in real world, real life practical applications. Now, the issue with some research professionals is that they like to only focus on what is measurable. So when you talk about the immeasurable, it makes it extremely difficult. And that's where we cause the divide in science is if I can't measure it, I can't use it. And unfortunately, that puts us at a significant disadvantage. And the purpose of this episode today is to translate just a small portion of that to some of the findings that we've had over the years that could be usable just to put into a perspective. And, from the physical copy, the book of the Durahuman paradox, one extraction that I really like to put out there today is when we talk about, I believe it's tool 17, and that's perception and imagery. And as far as immeasurable traits, imagery is possibly the most powerful tool in the arsenal of the human machine. It's what enables, athletes, if we're talking about on the elite athlete level or athlete level, to see the game-winning goal or to imagine themselves making those game-winning shots or taking the stage and, coming out triumphant without even being there. And what that does, from just talking to them in general, is it forces them to begin to work the steps in order to get there. Okay, I am not the champion right now, but I know that I want to be the champion. And more importantly, I can imagine myself being the champion. So what does that look like? What steps do I have to take in order to get there? What does that mean for me waking up? What does that mean for my training? What does that mean for my nutrition? What does that mean for my discipline? What kind of traits would the champion emulate for someone who needed to take first place? We're not talking about third place. We're not talking about second loser or first loser. We're talking about the top. The number one, because I can't speak on behalf of all athletes, but I'm pretty sure that they don't imagine themselves losing. They want to win, so they imagine doing what it takes to get to the top. And we can translate this to any successful person that you admire or any person that you can really talk to. Because about this topic, I've spoken to quite a few people to try and truly wrap my head around this, to understand what that looks like. And I feel like I've gotten most of the information that I need in order to translate that to you all and to be able to pay that forward. So if we're not even talking about athletes specifically, if we're just talking about the average human being, maybe we're talking about a sedentary individual that wants to start living a better quality of life. Maybe we're talking about a lifestyle enthusiast who wants to start taking their performance of their lifestyle to the next level. They want to challenge themselves. Maybe you run an ultra marathon. They want to be prepared for the next level of a test. Maybe they want to become an alpha warrior. Maybe we're talking about an athlete that has overcome some injuries, but they're trying to figure out, okay, how can I now perform at the collegiate level, at the professional level? Or maybe we're talking about an elite athlete who wants to maintain that elite status. What does that maintenance look like? If I can speak openly, the foundation of it is going to remain the same, because not everything along each of those stages are going to be measurable. So that's where, the yielding mentality, one of the first tools that we spoke of in the Durahuman paradox, and the ability to really harness imagery and vision is going to be crucial. And one of the things that really ties into that we talk about so frequently is adversity, something that a lot of people have, I want to say, become familiar with, but it's not something that you can ever truly become familiar with. But it's some things that some humans have experienced more than others. But adversity, we know amongst all of humankind, is inevitable, because that is what enables evolution, or one of the key components to evolution. And when we look at the adversity and imagery, they work hand in hand. And the reason why this is important for immeasurable concepts is because adversity is one of those concepts where we can't say it will look this way for John, it'll look this way for Jane, it'll look this way for Daquan, and it'll look this way for Song Lee. Each individual is going to interpret adversity differently. Now, if each of those individuals imagine themselves being the champion, there can only be one champion. There can only be one person at the top, okay? But we're talking about 4 different individuals, and they're each going to experience adversity differently. They're each going to have grief, loss, heartbreak, financial hardships, access economy, financial insecurity. They're going to have, these different rungs of adversity to interpret differently. It's going their level of imagery is what's going to set them apart, not just as normal humans, not just as athletes, but as individuals that are able to overcome those obstacles. Because in the moment, right, we can all attest to adversity is not something where it is always going to see like it's something that you can overcome. And as unfortunate as that is, there is no one path to that. There's no, I myself, no single person can tell an individual exactly, okay, this is what you're going to do in order to overcome it. That's where the understanding and the interpretation of these tools and why even discussing immeasurability is so important. It doesn't need to be measured. The stock human is given the necessary equipment in order to overcome those challenges. Now, it simply means that there's going to have to be some fine tuning in order to begin to overcome those obstacles. So between those four individuals, the equipment that they acknowledge in their ability to interpret that adversity and their imagery, like we said, is what's going to give them, advantage or disadvantage. Because let's say, for the sake of argument, that three of them don't have the capability of imagery, or they don't feel like they have the mindset in order to imagine themselves overcoming those obstacles and still winning by any means. No, whatever it takes. That means the one individual who does is put at an advantage, because they are going to begin to do things that's going to put them in the best possible position to overcome those obstacles. Not necessarily that they have the advantage, but they put themselves at an immeasurable mental advantage and then start to work towards how to overcome that adversity and get to that top spot. That's the vision. And that imagery in each of those stages is what allows them to get to that vision. Because let's be honest, as we begin to wrap this thing up here, not everyone is put on the same playing field. Not everyone is given the same advantages. Not everyone is given the same opportunities. But just because someone is not given the same opportunities doesn't mean that it's not possible. It's why we are able to see feats of history performed every single day. Every single week, there seems to be some sort of athlete or some person that's showing us that what was once considered improbable or impossible is now the new standard. And that's done mostly because of imagery, because once upon a time, whatever they accomplished wasn't real life. It wasn't possible. It hadn't been done. But somehow, they started by imagining it and being able to take those steps to make it possible. But step one is that imagery. And as we move forward through this and as we wrap this up, what I want to leave the average population with, or if you're a more experienced population, is that don't underestimate the power of the immeasurable. Not everything has to be based on data and statistics and numbers. And in fact, some of the most powerful concepts that we have are based in the immeasurable, and one of them being imagery. And there's going to be so many more that we talk about. And as we discuss more into how imagery occurs, what does that mean for human cognition? How does that work in the brain? And, how do we take in from our surroundings to begin to translate that in things that we take in actionable steps? Understand that it starts with imagery. In order to be able to overcome adversity, because it's inevitable, right? It's going to happen in different levels for everyone, but it's going to happen. It starts with that imagery and the steps taken to see past that to what it truly is that you want to do and accomplish. But until next time, stay durable, my friends.